kind of never know where it's going to go. You know what I mean? And
I don't even know where it's going to go.
cool. Well,
Yeah. I think that's the best part is
Yeah.
you get to just sit down and pick somebody's brain and see, okay, what are you about? Like,
Yeah.
where's your mind going? And you
Right.
especially, you are a fascinating individual, if I do say so myself.
Well, gosh, I don't know. That's giving me a lot of credit.
We'll see. Wait, ask me again at the end of the podcast.
Exactly.
We might
You speak
reassess.
too soon.
But Humboldt Apothecary, I'm a big fan of your business.
Well, that's good to
How
hear.
did you
Thank you.
How did you get started in the marijuana industry?
So I mean, I've been in Humboldt now for, God, I'm gonna date myself here, but like about 20 years, so quite some time. And so I've just always been around cannabis here. It's just such a
Yeah, it's
part
kind
of
of a
the
staple.
fabric. Have a lot of friends that are farmers and whatnot. And then we established the business in 2015, and we just kind of saw the cannabis industry going in a direction of legalization. And so I say we because I have a co-founder and business partner, my friend Susan Cleverton. So we started the business together, and we just kind of wanted to get in and create products that really spoke to us that we didn't really see like represented in dispensaries at the time, you know, more like low dose kind of like therapeutic products, more so than that just like super high concentrations of THC with lots of sugar and stuff. It just didn't really speak to us. So we were looking for a product that, you know, would speak to us, and couldn't find it, and decided to just create a line of products that did.
Did you guys start out with kind of a focus on CBD then? That
We
was kind of the
did.
birthplace of it?
Yeah, that
Okay.
was for sure. Yeah. Yeah, and we also started by mixing other medicinal herbs with cannabis, which is kind of unique in the industry right now. And I don't know, it's surprised us, I guess, because looking like historically, the use of cannabis, it's been combined with a lot of other medicinal plants for a lot of different purposes. Like if you look at like the old pharmacopoeias and stuff that like the doctors would, you know, write up these recipes for everything from like a hangnail to cancer or whatever. They used kind of like a range of medicinal herbs together with cannabis. And so we kind of wanted to resurrect that kind of use of cannabis, and that was kind of how our products were born.
Do you think that's kind of been replaced, that idea of mixing that in there, just because of the culture now where it's more so, oh, we're just going to make it all fancy candy edibles?
Yeah, I think it's probably more. I mean, I don't think we live in a culture anymore where plants are, you know, used as medicine very commonly. So to a lot of people, that's kind of odd. But, you know, 100 years ago or even less, that was very common. Most of that's been replaced by pharmaceuticals.
Yeah, it's hard finding that nowadays.
Yeah.
For sure.
It's not in Humboldt. I mean,
Yeah.
we're big fans of plant medicine here in Humboldt, but you know, once you get out of our little bubble, most people that's pretty odd to them, I think.
Yeah, especially out of California.
Oh yeah.
As a whole. Once
For
you
sure.
start moving east, it's like, oh, okay, this is not normal.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have any plans to turn more towards THC heavy products, or are you guys mainly just focused on CBD for the
Yeah,
moment?
we actually kind of have started to move in that direction. We just launched 2 new products this year, and they're a line of solventless tablets. And we started with like like 300 milligram bottles, so they're 10 milligrams each THC. There's an indica and a sativa, and then we're going to launch another round of those that's going to be 1,000 milligrams. So we are kind of moving more in that direction, just because you know, CBD kind of experienced this like total heyday where everyone was freaking out and putting it in everything. And it's sort of less popular now in dispensaries than it was even, you know, a year or two ago.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah. So we're just, you know, we'll always have our CBD products. I'm a huge fan of CBD, but I like it mixed with THC, you know, and not just as like a hemp derived CBD concentrate. But yeah, we are diversifying our THC line for sure, and trying to kind of like create products that like appeal to a broader demographic of people as well. So
Why is it that CBD's kind of taken a back seat, I guess?
you know, that is a really interesting question. I think part of it is that there was such a, you know, it's like we've had so many like plants that experience like a real heyday. Like kale, like it had like,
Yeah.
like a
Yeah. That
major,
was a moment.
yeah, it was a moment. And then acai, I think,
Mm-hmm.
so I think CBD was like,
Part of that
it
craze.
was a rage there for a minute. And I think probably a lot of people have gotten products that are, not very effective because they don't contain what they say that they contain, because there's really like no regulation of hemp CBD right
That's a
now.
big problem,
It's a
right?
really big problem. So imagine thinking you're getting this, CBD product. It's got 1,000 milligrams, and the FDA ran a bunch of tests in a number of companies. Like, maybe there was no CBD in there, or there was a very small amount, and not at all aligned with the label claims. So maybe a lot of people tried it, experienced nothing, and thought like, I'm not wasting
Yeah,
my money
screw
on
this. I
this
don't need
anymore.
it.
But I also think that really I think everybody leaned on their vices in the last year. I'm not saying that THC is like overtly a vice, because it's so medicinal, but I mean, when you get stressed out, it's like, where do you go? Like, you either go for the whiskey, or maybe you go for like the, concentrates, or whatever is your vice to like help you get through a stressful time. I think we all probably did that a little more than usual in the last year or so,
Well, yeah, they said
understandably.
that alcohol sales especially were up, even
Yeah.
with the bars and restaurants being
Oh,
closed.
I
People were
believe
still
it.
just, yeah, going to town. Which, I
Yeah.
mean, what else are you going to do if you're stuck at
What
home?
else are you going to do?
Yeah.
I don't know. That was stressful. I think that was maybe the most stressed out I've ever been, at the beginning of the whole thing, realizing like, holy shit, like, excuse my language.
No, you can cuss. This is a
Okay.
this is a podcast. You're
We're
fine.
going into this like pandemic and economic depression. I mean, that was
Scary. Scary
really
stuff.
scary. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we all leaned on our vices a little bit. It's okay.
Yeah, and 2 weeks turned that into what, a year? It's been a year now?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
I know.
That's really crazy.
It really is.
Have you noticed an increase in sales related to this?
Yeah,
Or it's,
that's a tough one. I mean, we honestly, as a brand, like really took a hit last year between CBD sales being way down, and I think a lot of our demographic of people, I would say like, our products are loved by, like, I think we have a stronger like female leaning demographic for sure, and then like, a lot of baby boomers and older folks, that are looking for, ways to manage pain or insomnia, those kinds of things. And they were not going into dispensaries in the last year, So it actually was like a pretty challenging time for us. We saw our sales drop pretty significantly. And, you may know that like the cannabis industry is pretty behind in terms of like, access, like in the digital realm. Like a lot of the, the websites that the
like the
dispensaries
marketing.
have, they're not very well, like they don't always represent their inventory accurately.
Mm.
And so, like, for instance, this was an example. All of a sudden, it was super important for us to make sure that we were on people's online dispensary menus, and we were missing from like 40% of them or something, because, maybe there was a threshold that triggered, like, it doesn't show up on the online menu if there's only like a certain number of units of that SKU. And so, it just like, you have to override the system, and nobody was doing that. The dispensaries were so stressed already. And I think they got hit hard too. Like they all, in the beginning of COVID, they were looking at like, oh goodness, do we need to shut down? Then they had to like completely change like their operating procedures, to keep things safe for their customers. And, I think they were probably emphasizing the products that move the quickest on the shelves, which is generally flower and concentrates. Tinctures, like they all like to stock tinctures and topicals, but, they're a product that sits on the shelves a little longer, and it's for like more of a specific customer.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we had a tough year. I'm not gonna lie.
And you guys have a lot of tinctures, so that
We
must have
do.
been
We have
really
like,
difficult.
yeah, we have a lot of tinctures. Yeah. So it was a challenging year. And, cannabis, we didn't have access to PPP loans like everybody else either. So, we just had to kind of like get real lean. And, at this point, I don't know, I definitely consider myself an OG in the industry. Like, we've been doing this a long time. And, my business partner and I, like, we wear every hat, we do every task. And, yeah, we're not afraid to like get our hands dirty just to, make it work. So
That's cool.
I'm proud of that,
You need that. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, we're pretty scrappy.
That's good. I feel like in order to make it, especially in the cannabis industry where it is saturated, like you have to have that if you want to stick around.
Or
you
you
know?
have to have like a lot of capital, which we
Yeah,
don't.
to just throw money at it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. So
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I would have thought the sales would have been up, but it makes sense if the marketing wasn't there and the website
Yeah,
side of
it's
things.
the access. Like we had
Yeah.
so many people contacting us frustrated, like I want to buy your product and I can't, like I can't just sell it online. I am looking for like a direct to consumer channel with a delivery service, but that model's not really like very streamlined or worked out in cannabis either. It's just such a I mean, I know it's exploded in California, but it's very much bottlenecked, like there are a lot of players in the industry with a lot of, product and not a lot of places for it to go really. And so there are a number of different people, different businesses that are working on like direct to consumer kind of things where you could get the product delivered and you could order it from, somebody's website. And there are some brands that have figured that model out, but it's not very common yet, So we're still working on a lot of kinks in the industry. It's just so new.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this was such a curveball. Like
Oh my
nobody planned
gosh.
on COVID coming in and disrupting everything like that.
No, not at all.
So if you didn't have the infrastructure, you're kind of playing catch up.
Yeah,
For
for
sure.
sure. Yeah.
There's not really any service like a Postmates, I guess, where you can deliver alcohol. You know what Postmates is?
I don't.
They're like an alcohol
Oh,
delivery
that's
service.
specifically alcohol.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
Interesting.
think they might do food as well,
Uh-huh.
but I know they do alcohol. But there's
Okay.
nothing like that for cannabis, is there?
Well, there is. I mean, there are delivery services that are kind of working directly with brands and consumers, but it's new. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's a totally new model because it's being built specifically for cannabis to like comply with all the regulations for cannabis. So I think we're going to see more and more of that coming for sure. But it's not like easily accessible to everybody, and part of the problem is just that the cost is really high right now. So the numbers don't totally add up. Like if you have to pay $40 for your customer to get your product that costs $40 at retail, then you just like actually lost money because you sold that product to the dispensary for $20. So it's like the numbers don't work. And I think that just goes back to like the volume factor, that these businesses will be more successful when there's real volume to sustain them. And I
Mm-hmm.
just don't know that it's there yet.
Do you guys produce a lot of volume, or are you doing a lot of it by hand still?
I mean, we have bottling equipment, so we're not, poor, but it's all kind of like semi-automatic. It's pretty small scale
Mm-hmm.
for sure. Yeah, I think that if we, when we get to the point of scaling up to serving like a national industry, then we're talking like an entirely different setup. For most companies in California.
Are you guys primarily in California?
Yeah, we're only in California
Okay.
right now, but we are working on establishing ourselves in other states as well. That's kind of one of the goals of 2021 for us. So
Is there any regulational hoops, I guess, you have to jump through to go into other states, or as long as it's legal in that state, you're fine?
I mean, yeah, it's complicated. There's a lot of different ways to do it, but you basically need like a really good team of lawyers to
Yeah, I
guide
would
you. Yeah, it's
imagine.
a
Yeah.
lot of legal, obstacles and paperwork, and yeah, I'm not sure because I haven't done it yet. But and then it's each state is so different in how they're regulating the industry and their licensing process that it's unique each time you establish in a new state. So
I'm surprised. I really thought that Biden would have legalized it. I really thought
yeah.
that would have been just an easy lob for him to take off.
A lot of people think that there's a good chance that we could see decriminalization over legalization, and
Mm-hmm.
that it might happen like during his term. It's just I think he has so many like bigger bigger fish to
Problems.
fry.
There's a
He's got a
lot.
lot of
There's definitely
problems
a
going
lot.
on.
There's a lot to deal with right now.
Yeah.
And while I think that marijuana would help and CBD would help a lot of people, I understand that he's in a tough spot.
He
He's got a
really
lot of hard
is.
positions
I know.
and decisions he has to make.
Absolutely. But I was pretty psyched to hear Kamala give like a little push for legalizing cannabis in her debate with Mike Pence. I don't know if you caught that.
I
But
didn't.
she gave a little cannabis shout out, and I was like, yeah,
Oh,
go
man.
Kamala. So hopefully we'll see that revisited once we, triage the like
All the other problems that
yeah,
are
exactly.
happening right now.
Which I don't think we're gonna solve them anytime soon, but hopefully a couple of them we will.
Maybe the answer is CBD
Yeah.
and marijuana. If people just stop drink. Do you drink alcohol? Or you
I do.
okay? But you
Yeah.
favor.
I definitely favor
Yeah.
cannabis.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially like I don't know, as I get older, like I just am like, not as resilient to it, and I just really don't like to wake up and feel like crap, you know? And so that's kind of the beauty of cannabis. Is like you feel great when you use it, and then it helps me sleep, helps a lot of people sleep. And then I feel good the next morning when I wake up. Versus like drinking is can be
Being
so fun in the
hungover.
moment, right?
Yeah.
You wake up in
Yeah.
the middle of the night and you're like, "Oh, this is uncomfortable," and then you just have a headache the next morning, and it sucks, you
It's like
know?
you blow a second day because the
Mm-hmm.
next day you're not worth anything. If you
Yeah,
had a rough night, it's
it's no
not good.
fun.
Yeah, you can't go do anything. You definitely don't want to go for like a hike or do
Right,
anything physically active because you're over it.
right.
Yeah,
So then you might start drinking again, or
yeah, right. Just get a little hair of the dog to wake you up a little bit.
yeah, exactly.
Do you notice for your clientele, do you have a lot of like older people,
Yeah, I mean, I don't have
like 60s and
a
70s?
ton of I don't exactly I just don't have data in my hands that really expresses like the range of like the demographic range. So I don't know for sure. Like the only feedback that I really get is if I do events at a dispensary or like I've done classes and people come in, or I there are a number of people that reach out to us through email to ask questions. Sometimes people want to talk on the phone, and so I have kind of like a small pool of people that I
Can
have
kind of
have a
gauge.
cons. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, and I mean, my guess is that we do kind of appeal heavily to like for like an older demographic, but I can't really tell you what that breakdown is, you know?
Yeah, the only reason I ask is I'm a big proponent for CBD.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. I use like the hand creams because I'm always working with my hands, so they always get tore up.
Yeah.
And I try to put as many people on to that as I can, but I noticed that the older generation, it's almost like there's still a stigma
Oh
around, oh,
yeah.
this is
Big
marijuana. And it's like, no,
time.
there's no THC. It's not going to get you high. It's like lotion. Just think of
Yeah.
it like lotion. And there's still that pushback of,
Oh
oh no, I
yeah.
can't. It's illegal. I'm like,
It's
this is legal. What do you like?
I know.
It's
It
crazy.
really is crazy. Yeah, I kind of feel like I love to talk to people like that because they're really interested in the science and, like they want more information. And I think it's just so fun to kind of like hold people's hand and like help normalize
Walk them
that a
through
little
it.
bit,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And I get that, it really created a lot of like fear or concern, like no, people, good law abiding citizens don't want to break the law, right? So I can respect that, but it's a plant, you know what I mean? Like I've heard every argument about, anti-cannabis, and one of my favorites that I just really found entertaining was that somebody was like, I'm morally opposed to cannabis, like, you know, like it's not holy or something. It's not a god, it's not aligned with God or so. That was the point that they were making. And I was like, yeah, but it's a plant. Like
Yeah.
if you believe in God, don't you think that, I mean, how did that plant get here, Maybe God put it here if you buy that whole story, So anyway, it's just hard to look at this beautiful plant and, from my perspective, see, any kind of malice with it. But of course, yeah, that socializing and the stigma attached is very real for so many people.
Yeah, it's hard to break through that wall. Or
Yeah.
if somebody's got that in their head that it's just evil, especially if somebody says it's evil, you're like, oh, this is gonna be a little rough.
Yeah, for sure. And then there's the other one that, a lot of people will argue that CBD actually is psychoactive because the definition of psychoactivity is that it is like interfering and altering like the behavior of your neurotransmitters, which THC and CBD both do. Although you don't feel like the mental psychoactive effects with CBD, it does interfere with the same neurotransmitters as THC does, So, but I think it's interesting that people think CBD, like they can justify that a little more because it doesn't alter, their perception, but THC does. So somehow
It's
that's
bad.
bad,
Yeah.
that's another one that I always like to kind of roll around and play with, but
My favorite argument is when somebody goes against THC or CBD, but they smoke cigarettes, like a pack a day, or they're drinking alcohol all the time. And I'm like, don't you just want to try something that's maybe a little bit better for your body. Like, just
Yeah.
give it a shot and see what
And
happens.
those are all psychoactive
Oh
plant
yeah.
ingredients
Oh
too,
yeah.
right? Like nicotine and
Yeah, you
tobacco.
definitely feel buzzed after smoking a cigarette or a
Yeah.
cigar. You feel something.
Oh yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
What do you say to people? What's your like go-to argument when somebody comes at you with that? Do you have one like in queue?
Yeah, I mean, I just think that it's so cool that, basically almost every living creature on the earth has an endocannabinoid system, which is this like central physiological system in our bodies that basically regulates every other physiological system, like your nervous system and your digestive system, and every single system in your body is regulated by an endocannabinoid system. And cannabis literally has these cannabinoids that fit into those receptor sites in our body, and or if they don't fit into them, they interact with them directly. So it's like, I mean, how can you argue with that? It's
Yeah,
like
your
we
body's
have
almost primed for it.
co-evolved with this plant, and the reason that it really does cure everything from a hangnail to cancer for some people, not all, is that it is like kind of nourishing this system that is really deficient due to like constraints of modern living a lot of times. So it's like you can't argue with that science. You know what I mean? It's totally fascinating. There's still so much that we need to learn about it, but we know that like that is a fact that it behaves, it interacts with our body in this really kind of central, important way. So
And it's not harmful, right? I think that's a big thing that some people still haven't wrapped their head around. Is you're not going to
yeah,
overdose on
for most
CBD.
people. Now, I am the mother of a teenage son, and I've had a lot of conversations with parents around here. And, being in Humboldt, kids have a lot of exposure to cannabis. It's just everywhere,
Yeah.
and teenagers are risk takers anyway. And there's actually a lot of data out there that suggests that too much THC can be really harmful for young people's underdeveloped brains. And I've seen it, play out multiple times with young people that had kind of like psychological breakdowns because now they may have been predisposed, but there's a lot of data coming in that suggests that it can be harmful for young people. So I do worry about making a statement where it's just a blanket statement like this is not harmful. Now you're not going to overdose. That's the nice thing. You're not going to stop breathing like you would with an opioid. But it can be really harmful for mental health for some people. And so that's a really important conversation. Interestingly enough, though, there's a lot of data out there showing now that CBD is incredibly beneficial. And I mean, basically, like there's studies that show that it's just as effective as antidepressant, it's anti like psychotic medications, with none of the harmful side effects that are common with the medications. So I think it's not just a simple conversation like it's good for everybody. It's like different strains are better for certain people, and different ratios of CBD to THC that's a really important thing to pay attention to. You really have to look at like why is it that you're consuming cannabis, and what is the best fit for you, and that can take time for people for sure.
I do want to touch on because I've heard what you were just talking about people experiencing these psychological breaks. I've heard about that. But my understanding, and I could be totally wrong because I've done very little research on that, but I have passed that. And from my understanding, it was that they're not sure if that's directly related to the THC or if they were predisposed, like they were already on the path to maybe having some mental health ailments, and then that just tipped them.
Triggered it.
Yeah. Do you
Mm-hmm.
know anything about
I
that?
mean, from my understanding,
It's still pretty new,
I
right?
think
Like
it's
they're still,
inconclusive,
yeah,
yeah. But I think that that's true, like with like a lot of recreational drugs. Like there are a number of them that can cause, or that's the big question. Like, does it cause the mental imbalance, or does it, if somebody's already like genetically predisposed, does it push them in that direction? And I don't think we really have a definitive answer about that. But I think that it's important to look at THC as another potential, exacerbator of mental health imbalances particularly for young people.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They're
that's
more
what it
susceptible.
seems. Yeah, they are. Their brains are not developed yet,
Yeah, it seems like that's just across the board with everything. Like, if
Yeah.
you're a kid, you shouldn't be drinking
You
alcohol.
shouldn't
You
be
shouldn't.
drinking
There's a lot
alcohol.
that kind of
Yes.
just slips under the radar that, as a society, we've kind of just become comfortable with it.
They're just gonna,
Definitely.
and kids are sneaky. I mean, they're gonna, they like taking risks. It's part of their brain
Well, you feel
chemistry.
invincible when you're a kid.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I mean, they get away with all kinds of things because they're sneaky like that.
Having that talk with your kid, was that hard where you are prominent in this industry? And
Yeah, it's, I guess, like the way that like the products that I create probably aren't that interesting to my 17-year-old son.
yeah, he's probably not going to go grab a tincture and
Not
just
so
hang
much. I
out.
mean, I think he thinks it's, I mean, he's watched me build this business, and so I think he admires that. But yeah, I don't, it's not something that's like desirable to him per se.
Hmm.
But yeah, we've had a lot of conversations about cannabis, and mostly, I mean, he knows how much I love the plant, and you just have had to really emphasize the importance of taking time to let your brain develop, because I really think that's so important. Um,
Yeah. It's crazy how one small factor like THC being introduced in your system has a rolling effect when you're a kid. And it's not just THC. I was watching or listening to a podcast the other day about all the microplastics that are in our environment now and all the petrochemicals that are out and how that is having a tangible effect on children and like sperm count in men and testosterone in men and women. And it's all decreasing by like
yeah,
a significant amount just because it's in the environment. Animals are eating it. We're eating the animals. We're eating fruits and vegetables that are grown with petrochemicals on them. And that's in our system.
it
And like
really is.
if you took a urine sample and sent it out, they would be able to track how much you have in your system at any given time.
Yeah,
And it's crazy.
it is crazy.
It's
I
insane.
know none of us are pure anymore. We've all been heavily, I don't know, soiled by modern
Yeah.
industrial society anyway around it.
Yeah, what we're doing is crazy.
Yeah,
It's crazy
it
when
is
you think about
crazy.
it.
It really
Yeah.
is. Yeah.
And I don't know. I mean, I don't know how you fix that. That's a whole other issue. But
Small steps, just one foot in front of the other,
yeah, you got to do something because doing
Yeah.
nothing's not working out for us.
Yeah, and it's tricky. It's like, do you donate to good organizations that are doing, good work on the ground. I think so much of, good activism where you're really going to see change is like in your own community doing like grassroots stuff, whether it's going around and doing like a beach cleanup or supporting like the local environmental organizations that are, fighting to keep our little beautiful neck of the woods, clean, and, you know, supporting restoration projects and that kind of a thing. Yeah, because it's so easy to get overwhelmed by, the state of the world right now. It's pretty heavy, and
Yeah.
there's a lot of fixing that needs to be done. So, I don't know. I just think like one step at a time. We got to start moving forward, and yeah, moving past the whole era of fossil fuels. I think that's a major part of it. Like, what if we made plastics out of hemp, right?
I was just gonna ask, have you
Yeah.
looked into that at
I
all? Do
mean,
you
I
guys?
don't know enough about it. I think it's a really cool concept. I mean, my understanding was that, Henry Ford had like a prototype for like a hemp composite plastic back, at like the turn of the century, basically, when he was like making his early Model T Fords or whatever. So, I mean, there are probably a lot of other people in this community that know a lot more about it, but it seems totally feasible. Like it's been done, right? So why we aren't using that is
Crazy.
yeah, it is.
It's crazy to think where we would be if we hadn't come up with plastic and instead just used hemp.
I know,
Like,
right?
where would we be right now with that? We
Right.
wouldn't have all this plastic in the oceans.
Yeah, no, we wouldn't. I know we really created kind of a mess for ourselves.
And hemp is so versatile. That's the crazy thing. You can make clothes out of it. You can make plastic out of it. You can make paper out of it.
Rope.
Rope.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a It's an invaluable resource that we haven't really tapped into yet.
It's true. The other really neat thing about it is that it's like a bioaccumulator, so it or bioremediates the soils, so it actually does pull heavy metals and pesticide residues and things like that out of the soil.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and so it can be used to remediate contaminated soils.
Wow.
Yeah. I know. And, one thing that has been a really fascinating kind of exploration with legalization and like the compliance framework in California is that for cannabis, like our compliance testing is so rigorous. Like if you look at like the list of pesticides that are tested for, it's probably one of the most rigorous states for testing in the country. I mean, probably in the world even. And it gives you so much feedback information about like what's in the soil, and I think pesticides that may have been previously thought of as sort of harmless, they might even be like OMRI listed that suggests like they're safe for organic and non-toxic. Sometimes those contain pesticides. They're not very well regulated. That whole pesticide industry isn't, and so I think it's given a lot of the farmers and manufacturers like a really important amount of feedback of like just how prevalent, these different contaminants are in our soils and, everywhere. And the same is true, like when you talk about the plastic residues, the same is true of pesticides, like what's the big one? The glyphosate.
Yeah.
And like if they ran, DNA sample or whatever, hair samples and blood samples, we'd probably all have like this laundry list of different chemicals in our bodies, So I think, and it's been neat to watch farmers really have to shift and really focus on like building their topsoils and building resiliency to disease and to pests in other ways besides using pesticides. And I think it's a great model that can be applied to other agricultural industries. Like if we had that kind of information about what was in our food and, what was in, anything that we put in our bodies or on our bodies, it would really make us think twice, because just because something says certified organic, it doesn't mean a lot, unfortunately,
It's crazy that you guys probably have more stringent testing
Way more
than our food industry.
Oh yeah, and I can tell you, I mean, we purchase, certified organic ingredients all the time and have to test them and find them contaminated with pesticides. Sometimes pesticides that are like totally illegal,
Oh, wow.
and they're in there and it's certified organic. So,
That happens a lot?
No, I wouldn't say a lot, but it does happen, and so we have to be super vigilant and make sure we test everything before we put it into our products even because, you don't want to add a bunch of like expensive cannabis oil to all these other ingredients, put it through compliance testing, which costs a lot of money, and then find out like, oh, you failed and now you've got to destroy this product,
All because
batch.
of the soil.
Right. Yeah, or because of what was sprayed on the crop. Yeah.
Are you guys growing everything in-house or are you
No.
sourcing it?
Yeah,
Okay.
we're sourcing it. So we work with sun-grown cannabis farmers just in Humboldt County, actually. And so, we're always like sourcing biomass from the farmers directly and or, we work with a number of extractors in the community and procure really nice oil from them. So we're really fortunate to kind of be in the heart of the Emerald Triangle to
Yeah, you guys are perfectly placed.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's fun to be able to work with friends that, like I see the quality of their work, and going out and visiting their farms and their devotion to that and, get to purchase that from them and put it into my product. Like that is very rewarding.
Yeah, it's got to be a gratifying feeling.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Especially if you're close with them, you can be like, "Oh, hey, we got your new strain in this. It's
Exactly.
going to be great."
Yeah. That's nice.
Yeah, that testing, it's crazy. It's all crazy. But the testing especially is crazy. On the one hand, I'm glad that they do that. I wish that they did that for everything, though.
Everything.
That's the thing.
I know. Here's another example, like, because they test for heavy metals and there's a, like, low
Allowable
threshold
amount. Yeah.
for, heavy metals. And heavy metals occur naturally in soils. So a little bit is not a big deal, but obviously you don't want like a high level of lead or arsenic in your, in
Wouldn't
your
be
product.
great.
No, it's not ideal. So, this was another example, like when we first switched over where California started doing testing of heavy metals, we had sourced these bottles that were like USP, like, it's like pharmacy grade bottles. They had all of the um, certifications to be used for any kind of like pharmaceutical grade product. And I remember like we bottled up a batch and sent it into the lab, and it came back like chock full of lead.
Oh,
So I mean, those are the same bottles that pharmacies are sourcing. Other like tincture companies that are making just herbal tinctures are sourcing, and probably nobody's testing. Unless it gets pulled off for like a Prop 65 test or something. Nobody's testing these things, so it's just crazy to me that it's everything is so unregulated, and cannabis on like conversely is extremely regulated, and it's a pain point in a way, but it's also extremely illuminating about all kinds of other industries as well.
do you think they're so stringent on marijuana just because of the past that it's
I
had, and
think
it's
that
still
that's
federally illegal?
definitely a part of it for sure. I
Yeah.
think that figuring out how to regulate a brand new industry is not an easy thing. And I think it's definitely overregulated. Like a lot of people in cannabis make the point that, or the argument that, like, because there's so many regulations to supposedly like keep it out of children's hands, and everything has to be child resistant, and and that's great and all, except that it creates a lot of waste, and a lot of the cannabis packaging in California is really not very environmentally friendly. So a lot of plastics that are not recyclable, and just a lot of waste, and which should we be more concerned? You know what I mean? Like kids could get into, I mean, alcohol isn't
I
in
was going
child
to say that's
resistant
what my thought
bottles,
was.
right?
Yeah.
So how do we just as a society make responsible choices for our children and make sure that they don't have access to, like the adult things that we keep in our houses? Is it really like the cost benefit analysis, like all the plastic and waste that we're creating to adhere to these regulations is like, it's excessive.
Yeah, it's a lot of single use,
A lot of
and you
single
just throw it
use.
out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then where does it go?
Right.
I don't know. I don't know how you combat that though. Like, how do you push back? Because it is still such a new industry to be legalized. How you start, how you get it more in line with the regulations, say on alcohol, where it can just be sitting on a store shelf and it's not this taboo thing where, oh, you have to go to this specific place, and it's like it's almost like there's so much pressure on it that it's just they're trying to discourage it in a
Mm-hmm.
way.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Because
don't
even
really have the
cigarettes,
answer to that.
they've only locked up cigarettes in the past few years, right?
Yeah, I guess so, huh? They used to just be more
They were just
readily
out.
available.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
alcohol just sits out. Alcohol, there are kids that steal bottles from Safeway all the
Oh
time.
yeah,
Yeah.
I
You
know.
just walk in there, it's right there, you grab it and you walk out.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, it would be interesting. I mean, I think, again, there are policy people working really hard on this stuff. Great folks that are like really driving this conversation forward in cannabis right here in our community. And I'm really not one of them. I mean, I like to participate and support the causes that are important to me, but, I can't give you really solid answers about, how that conversation is, moving forward in terms of policy right now.
Yeah, you've got
But,
bigger fish to fry. You're still working on
well,
the
I don't know.
product.
I mean, honestly, I'm just working on my little brand, but it's, a really important conversation, like how to create packaging that is sustainable and, build an industry that is sustainable. Like, is that even possible, right? I mean, it's sort of like the whole oxymoron of capitalism is like, it's not really sustainable, right? But I like to think that within cannabis, like we're growing this plant that, remediates the contaminants in the soil and, nurtures us in a way that we really need in this modern era. It'd be nice to know that the way that it was packaged and, shared was, more sustainable for the planet.
Yeah, that would be a good thing. At least use hemp plastic or
Yeah,
something. I mean, you're
exactly.
already in that niche, why not just
Exactly. But
try to
I
make the
wish
turn?
hemp plastic was readily available. I've
Yeah, I don't
seen
even
some
know where you
cool
would get it.
things. Yeah, like there are some companies that are making plastic out of like the ocean plastic now, which is great, and some, yeah, like composites with other plants. I have seen that, but not. I haven't seen any hemp plastic. But I'm gonna look out for that because
Yeah.
that would be a good product to.
The coolest thing that I've seen is, like the pit in an avocado.
Mm-hmm.
They've made straws out of that,
Oh,
which is pretty cool. It holds
that
up
is
better
super
than like
neat.
the paper straws.
Uh huh.
But it's environmentally friendly. It decomposes, and it's
Yeah.
all out of that little seed.
Yeah, I hope that in our lifetime we get to a point where that's not novel. Like it's just everything is made from compostable, biodegradable things. That would make a lot more sense.
I think we will. I think
Yeah,
we have to.
I think we have
Yeah, I
to.
don't think it's a choice. I think it's when enough people will wake up and realize, oh, this is not sustainable.
Yeah.
Like, which I think it's coming.
I think so
I think it's
too.
coming.
Yeah. And it's tough on the consumer end, right? Because I don't know how much you change policy. I mean, I definitely think like where you spend your dollars has an impact on what's available, but I think it needs to come from like regulating polluters and regulating, manufacturers of products and materials that are just entirely unsustainable. Like it just makes no sense anymore. So hopefully, I don't know, maybe with this new president, some good things will start to take place. I know they've got lofty ambitions, so we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see what they hit.
Yeah,
How far they can
exactly. I
go.
know you only get so far in a term anyway. So, but hopefully things are headed in a good direction.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
I know.
Fingers crossed. So your tinctures, how do you make them? Because I don't
Yeah.
understand that process at all.
Okay, yeah. Well, I think probably the most interesting tinctures that we make are like alcohol based tinctures. And again, like a tincture, like the true definition of a tincture is actually like an alcohol base. Any herbalist that you talk to knows that. But in cannabis, most tinctures are actually made with like a coconut MCT oil base or like an olive oil base. Those are really common ones. And we actually have a line that is, I think it's unique. Like it's the one alcohol tincture line in cannabis in California right now. I could be wrong. There might be another small brand out there doing it, but so basically with those, what we do is we start with like the herbs that we're going to use to tincture, right? And we basically we soak those herbs in big containers that in a mix of like organic cane alcohol and water, and we let those sit for several weeks, and then we have a big press that we use to separate out like the herb material from the liquid, and then that's your herbal tincture base. And we actually mix that with organic honey to kind of like soften the flavor and not make it so extreme. And then we fold in cannabis oil into that. And that's how we make our tinctures.
Oh, that's incredible.
Yeah, I should make a little video
That
and
would be
post
really
it
cool.
because it's kind
Yeah.
of hard probably to visualize that process.
Yeah.
But
Well, you explained it very well. I didn't realize. I didn't realize that.
yeah,
Yeah, you should do. That would be really cool to like put up on your website
yeah,
or even on YouTube
I
or
think
something.
people would like that. We'll
Yeah.
have to work on that.
So is there a reason that tinctures are traditionally used with an alcohol base? Is that just because it's easier to extract?
It's a really good solvent.
Okay.
Yeah, so it extracts really like it's considered a bipolar solvent. So meaning it will extract out water soluble compounds from the plant as well as fat soluble compounds. So that's pretty neat. It's a unique property of alcohol. And then the other thing about it is that it partially bypasses your digestive tract, so you absorb it into your bloodstream a lot faster just by the nature of alcohol metabolizing, and it's a great carrier. So
Are you tasting the alcohol in the tincture or
you
no?
do.
Okay.
Yeah, you do. And so I do tell a lot of people it's not like a sublingual where you want to hold it under your tongue. It's not a super pleasant taste. And so that's sometimes hard to convince people like, well, why would I take it's not a gummy or a chocolate, but I think the effect that they like the experience in your body with the other medicinal plants in there is just really different and unique. And so that's the real benefit. And so, you can put it in tea. You can put it like a lot of times I'll just put it in like a little bit of water and wash it back. And like 1 milliliter, which would be like a dropper full, is about one dose for most people. And, if you put that into like a hot cup of tea, you're going to steam off most of the alcohol anyway, and it's going to be fairly insignificant.
What is your go-to? Are you like a 1-to-1, or do
It,
you have a favorite, or you kind of
yeah,
mix them
it
up?
it varies actually. My go-to, we have this formula called Calm that's just like really good for your nervous system, and that's a 3-to-1, and
Okay.
I like that one a lot. And then yeah, I like a 1-to-1, but yeah, I seem to kind of go back and forth. I'm really into our tablets these days too, which are all THC. So I kind of like oscillate between the 3-to-1 and the THC, I think, these days. What about you? What's your go-to?
Um, I like a high dose of. I've been doing a high dose of CBD lately, just
Mm-hmm.
because life's crazy and
Yeah,
it's just nice to be calm every now and then.
it really is.
Um, for people that don't know, uh, like a 1-to-1 would be 1 milligram of CBD to 1 milligram of THC,
Mm-hmm.
and you guys go all the way up to 20-to-1. I think
Yes.
it's your higher, and that's
Mm-hmm.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, wow.
And that's a really nice one. I like a 20-to-1 a lot because it's you really don't feel any mental effects, I would say. It's just very relaxing to your body. I guess the mental effects are it can be really, really good for anxiety, but you don't notice any kind of psychoactivity, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, I'm just not so worried about everything anymore. I can sort of relax.
Yeah, I have a lot of friends that love CBD because of that. They have
Yeah.
anxiety disorders, and it inhibits their life in a lot of ways. And then they take CBD, and it's like I get to be me. Like I can go out in social settings and not be stressed out and not be worried all the time. It's just
It's so
it's a
great.
it's a really weird plant. It's a really weird plant when you sit
Yeah.
down and actually think about what it can do.
Yeah. It's a smart plant. I think
It
it
is.
figured out a really long time ago how, to get us to work for it and to keep cultivating it around the world and sharing the genetics
That's a good
and
way to put it. We work
yeah.
for
I mean,
it.
I really do believe that, right? So, it figured out that I mean, it's just evolution. I guess you can't say that it like consciously figured out, but it at some point developed these cannabinoids that like literally we need, to keep our bodies in balance. And so, it's a smart plant for sure.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's the way you put it is crazy. Because I mean, that's everything is trying to reproduce to pass on its genetics.
Yeah,
And if we're that medium that makes it happen faster in a
right.
better way, why
Exactly.
not?
Yeah. Yeah, we
Wow.
we like cultivate the fields and fertilize them and water them, and we just completely cater to this plant that, helps us. And so it's a really symbiotic relationship. And it's interesting. I mean, some of the most successful plants in history that we, have been around the longest for us, right? They sort of got our number. Like they taste good or they help us in some way, and we in turn, keep tending to them.
Yeah, it's like ayahuasca, where it's almost ingrained in the human life. It's just been around for so long.
Yeah.
It's a crazy thing. I might butcher this. I want to say that they have found I don't I want to say it was with the Romans, and they found like alcohol mixed with ayahuasca or something crazy
Really
like that. Some
interesting.
mixture that even back then they were just using. That it
Mm-hmm.
was just a staple in their society and in their culture. It was just a part of what they did.
Yeah, I mean, I think humans have a natural affinity for mind altering substances, clearly, right?
Mhm.
There's a lot of them that we've turned to globally, and so, yeah, it's interesting.
And it's weird that we've only recently started to demonize a lot of these
Mm-hmm.
plants.
Yeah,
Like that hasn't been the occurrence for a majority of history.
right.
It's only
Yeah.
been the past 100, 200 years.
Yeah. What is all that all about? I
I
mean, what's
don't
your take on that?
I think it has a lot to do with other industries, right? So I
Mm-hmm.
would argue that the plastic industry is probably a big reason why hemp isn't as big as it should be. Tobacco, I don't think that they were happy with marijuana popping up. Well, actually,
They're
marijuana,
they're all jumping in now, but
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, they're buying up vast amounts of land. They're trying to hop on the bandwagon
Oh
for
yeah.
sure. But do you know about William Randolph Hearst in the Hearst Castle?
Tell me.
He was a guy. This is my understanding. We'll see what you think. He was a guy, a very rich guy, who was in the newspaper business, got into films and stuff. And back while hemp was still legal, they had found a way to turn it into paper. And it was an expensive process, but they were saying it was going to replace paper mills and the paper production systems that were in place. And this guy didn't want to go through with that because he was already set up. He already had all the equipment to produce paper, how it is produced with trees and stuff. And so he started running campaigns against marijuana. Reefer Madness, that was his movie. Like all of that comes from this one guy. That whole campaign against marijuana and against hemp all stemmed from William Randolph Hearst.
Yeah.
And his campaign against marijuana.
And I've heard there were other players involved
There's a
too.
woman too, and I can't think of her name, who was kind of similar to that.
Yeah, well, there were a number of different families in the United States. I remember reading this in the People's History of the United States, where basically, I think, like what I remember reading is that there were a number of big families, I think the Rockefellers maybe, that had invested into hardwood forests like in the tropics. And they didn't really know how to turn that into like an industry, right? In terms of like moving the product globally. So my understanding is that there was a lot of like lobbying pressure coming from these families to shut out hemp, specifically because they had invested into these other, industries with, timber, and they wanted to turn that into paper, which, I mean, if you think about it now, like what a complete travesty to turn a hardwood forest in the tropics into paper when we have so many like renewable resources that we could do that with,
Yeah, but same line of thinking. It's this group of people, for whatever reasons, right, that pushes back against something that's not profitable for them.
Right.
And we are where we are today.
Yes.
It's that same track. I think that's what we see a lot with the pharmaceutical industry too, and the pushback on using marijuana for medical reasons or CBD for medical reasons. I think it all stems from that.
Yeah.
And most people don't have the time to do their own research.
Right.
Is the big problem.
That's true.
If you have a job and you've got kids and you've got a life, you don't have time to comb through, journals going over the research of the benefits of CBD or the benefits of this strain of marijuana. Like you just don't have the time.
No, and so many people don't really have access to good quality stuff either, So it's back to like there's not a lot of quality control in place for CBD products. I mean, in California, we're really lucky. Like if you walk into a dispensary in California that's licensed, because there's a lot of unlicensed ones too, that like what the label says the product is, like that's what you're getting, and that really counts for a lot, but there are so many products out there. The FDA is not regulating hemp yet. There are just a lot of hemp CBD products that are kind of inert, So yeah, it is tough to do your research. And I always recommend, like, if people are buying a hemp CBD product, ask for the COA. It's the certificate of analysis, and it's the testing that speaks to what's actually in the product, and any good manufacturer of a product or farmer that's cultivating the hemp that you're buying, they should do testing, and you should be able to see that to make sure that it is what it says it is and that you want to buy it.
Yeah, I think that's one of the cool things, not to plug your website, but on your website is you guys have the testing. You also have some academic journals where people can go and check out the research. I thought that was pretty cool. You don't actually often see that.
Yeah, we try to be super transparent about our products. We like our real joy that we derive from this is being able to work with people that are really sick, that are really benefiting from cannabis. And like when we get somebody saying like my doctor recommended, your product to me, like that makes my heart sing, So I just, I want people to know that we have good products. I want to be super transparent about that. And, my whole take is I'm very grateful that if I were to get, hit by a Mack truck tomorrow on the 101 or, got some terrible infection, like I could go to the hospital, I could get antibiotics and I could get painkillers and I would be okay. Like I would, that makes me feel really good. But, at the same time, I think that so many people have a hard time, just managing their imbalances with pharmaceuticals because that's not really what they were created for. They're really created to treat like very, avert symptoms. But in terms of like vibrant health, I talk about that a lot and sort of like maintaining a level of wellness. Plant medicine is just amazing for doing that, and most people don't realize that. And it's also a whole suite of lifestyle choices that diet is very important, exercise, and plant medicine. And so I like to try to get that information out to people and try to empower them to be good stewards of their own bodies and figure out how to kind of like reclaim their wellness. Because it's just an epidemic. So many people are on all kinds of pharmaceuticals to try to manage, a lot of different complaints. And a lot of times they don't really get the results that are satisfying to them anyway. There's a lot of side effects and, you can get addicted to these different substances and dependent on them. So that's really kind of my angle. It's not even so much about selling my products. I mean, of course I want to sell products, but it's about really trying to empower people to take charge of their health.
You can tell that this isn't just a business for you. Like this
No,
is a
it's a
passion,
total passion.
and it just happens to
Yeah.
coexist with you making money
Yeah, for sure.
and
It does.
sustainability.
In fact, there's a lot of times when like my business partner and I like tease like, yeah, we really could have probably built a business that was much more successful financially right off the bat. Because there's a lot of things that sell a lot more than, herbal cannabis tinctures. But it really is, it's a labor of love. It's a passion project for us. It's something that we really believe in. And so, yeah, it sustains us on like a passion project level that is, fulfilling.
Now, when you say vibrant life, do you mean like a more holistic life?
Yeah, just,
Okay.
I think of it, and I try to be careful with the word like vibrant health. I think like when you're really feeling, good in your body, and like that's a conscious choice, that takes work and it takes educating yourself, and I've been thinking about that term because I don't want to be exclusive. Like a lot of people are dealing with chronic pain and, mental health issues that are, sometimes genetic, sometimes they have like an autoimmune disease. And it's fine and great and all for, some girl with her cannabis company to be talking about vibrant health for everybody. But it's obviously more complicated than that. So I think it's sort of like it's relative to like the individual and what their specific challenges are. But I think it's just about, making the choices that are like within your control to strive to just feel better in your body, and just small changes, whether it's like taking a walk in the morning or, incorporating, a little bit more like fruits and vegetables into your diet or, just little things make a really big difference, finding ways to use plants to, maintain the balance of your health, whether it's, helping you get a good night's sleep or helping you digest your food better or manage your stress and anxiety. I mean, plants are amazing allies that way. We've really co-evolved with these plants for, hundreds of thousands of years. Yeah, they're very effective for a lot of different, human complaints.
Yeah, I didn't really realize that, and I can't grasp the full magnitude of that, but it kind of opened the door for me when I started using, um, oh God, what is the name for it? You put it in like a diffuse. Why can't I think of the
Oh,
name?
essential oils.
Essential oils.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, essential
Yeah.
oils, and then I was like, okay, this is interesting because I have like allergies sometimes during the summer and stuff, and so I'll use that, and it got me off allergy medication. I was like, okay, maybe
Oh.
there's something to this. Maybe we should start looking into more plant-based things.
Mm-hmm.
Not to go off on like we shouldn't be eating meat because that's out of my realm. I
Right.
love meat, like I can't do that. But
Yeah.
healthy lifestyles, I think, is something we can all appreciate,
Yes,
especially
absolutely.
now. I think people are starting to realize you don't have to go work out to be shredded, but you should go work out just to be healthy so that your quality of life improves. You don't have to
Absolutely.
eat McDonald's 24/7. Maybe grab a salad.
Yeah.
These things have tangible effects on just day-to-day life. I don't think people realize how much better you will feel if you just put in a tiny amount of work
It's
on
so
you.
true.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's easy, I think, for people to feel discouraged, like, because they can't, they think they can't afford to eat like that or something. But it's as simple as, like, yeah, I mean, you could eat beans and rice for pennies on the dollar. And
Which is
it's,
way better than McDonald's.
yeah, for
Anything on that
sure.
menu.
Yeah. And, it's just, I mean, I get it's a socioeconomic divide, for a lot of people that are just living hand to mouth and just getting by, tend to probably swing more toward fast food and feeling like that's out of their reach. But I really do think that there are economical ways. You don't have to join a fancy gym, right? You can, right here, we're just so lucky. We can just go hike off into the redwoods, and that's great exercise, right? And it totally changes your entire perspective. Like, wake up half an hour early and go take a walk, and yeah, find ways to incorporate these little, I don't know, just healthy tidbits into your life. And interestingly enough, like, from a scientific perspective, exercise and a lot of, like, leafy greens and kind of aromatic pungent spices actually nourish our endocannabinoid systems as well. They fit into the receptors as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't
And
know
so
that.
it's a whole body practice that's not just cannabis based. Cannabis is really, like, packs a big punch that way. But yeah, just eating a diet rich in leafy greens and essential fatty acids and, like I said, the spices and the aromatics. Yeah, you're really nurturing and supporting your endocannabinoid system. And exercise does that as well. So it's
And
pretty
taking
cool.
vitamins. I
Mm-hmm.
think that's a big thing that people are slowly waking up to, is that you're not getting everything you need from your diet alone. You should supplement with vitamin D, you know, with all of it. Really, with all of it. Take a multivitamin.
Yeah,
I mean, take some fish oil.
right. Yeah.
I don't think that that's being as pushed as it probably should be.
Yeah, and I wonder, I mean, if we all just ate out of our gardens and, built our topsoils and had, really more of, like, an ecosystem that we were tending to versus, like, the industrial state of agriculture, I think that's where we get really devoid of nutrients in our food, and why we have to supplement with multivitamins. Because you look at our ancestors, like, they weren't taking multivitamins, where did we go so astray? I think, getting back to that whole concept of sustainability and, resilience in the way we grow our food. The nutritional content of your food is vastly increased by, adopting those kinds of strategies.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they
Yeah.
say that the nutritional value of, like, fruits and vegetables today that are mass produced in, like, these monocrop agricultural farms, it's significantly less than what it was even 50 years ago.
Yeah.
Significantly less.
Yeah.
Which, how crazy is that? That the food that we're eating today is way less nourishing than the food that our grandparents ate.
Right.
And nobody wants to talk. I feel like a hippie, or I feel like very, like, earthy getting into this, but it's like, it's
Yeah.
true.
No, it
And
is
people
really
should
true.
talk about it, because it is, yeah, it sounds hippy dippy or whatever, and it's,
No, but there's
oh,
good
grow your own
science
garden.
behind
Yeah,
it, right?
that's the thing.
So.
And if people don't start putting that out there of, hey, we need to break the stigma, maybe having a garden in your backyard is not, yeah, maybe that's not what you would want. Maybe you want, like, a basketball court in your backyard. I don't know, but
Yeah.
a garden's going to be more beneficial.
Yeah, or then, if you don't have it in your yard, maybe you, like, join a
Community, yeah,
CSA or go, be part of the community garden.
do something.
Yeah, it definitely makes a difference. It's really kind of fascinating. I mean, the other thing that I've gotten really interested in is this whole concept of, like, like the gut microbiome.
I've been trying to get into it. There's a lot.
There's
a
a lot.
lot to unpack there. And it kind of
Yes.
freaks me out.
Does it?
Yeah, 'cause
All
it's
those
like,
little microorganisms that.
not that, but I mean, as somebody who does occasionally eat In and Out because it's
Oh,
good,
yeah.
like,
It's not gonna
it
kill
worries
ya.
me, like, when you throw your body out of whack like that, like trying to get it.
I feel like we're training,
Back.
like, we kind of have to be mutants in this modern era. Like, we don't want to be, like, too pure and clean, or, we're going to just get taken out. I don't know.
Yeah, natural selection's gonna come.
Yeah, like your In-N-Out burger, that's like a little boot camp training, You
Well, and I think
figure
you
out
need
how
it
to.
like mentally too. You need a
Yeah,
break every now. You
yeah.
can't just eat healthy 24/7. That would be
No,
so
I mean it
boring.
is. Yeah, you got to have a sense of humor about everything. I think because if you take anything too seriously and too absolute, like you're just going to be really stressed out and miserable all the time. So, I think that's
Balance,
like balance. Yeah, for
balance.
sure.
So what have you looked into with that?
Well, so I mean, what they're finding now is that you know imbalances in like the gut microbiome are causing all kinds of health problems, right? And they're actually linking autism with an imbalance in the gut microbiome, like certain
Really?
bacteria that are just missing. And interestingly enough, they are the same bacteria that are missing from commercial, like industrial agriculture. Like there's an absolute link there that when we take in, food, fruits and vegetables that have been grown in soil, those microbes that are from that soil are basically like being they're inoculating our gut microbiome. And so that is the theory about why some of the modern diseases, including endocannabinoid system deficiencies, are arising is that we are not nourishing our gut microbiome at all, and it's causing all kinds of disease for humans.
That is crazy.
Yeah, it's
That
pretty
is
wild.
crazy.
Yeah, it really is. And the cool thing is also that cannabis can be so anti-inflammatory, and it can actually sort of help. Using it regularly can help. I think I'm trying to think of the right way to say this. Like lend like an environment for certain microbes that should be in your gut microbiome. It can create a more beneficial, advantageous environment for those organisms to thrive. So it truly is like extremely healing from the point of being very anti-inflammatory to your entire body, and also helping to heal that imbalance in the gut microbiome.
Is that a CBD benefit or a THC
I
or
think it's a whole plant benefit.
okay.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
But they have done studies that specifically linked THC to it. But it's like any study. I mean that's what I love about plant medicine is. I mean I'm like an absolute like lover of science in general, but also I think why I especially love plant medicine is like there's science there to kind of validate and confirm the benefits of it, but also it's kind of this great mystery because it's really a lot more complex than like a pharmaceutical drug where you have like a particular constituent that has this action physiologically in the body. Plant medicine, like there's this synergy going on where you have all of these different compounds within the plant that are working together, and they're also the amount of interactions that they're having with your body. It's just so complicated. So it sort of brings it's like it's not easy to distill down the action of one plant and say this is why this works, because there's so many different compounds in there that are
All at play.
orchestrating. I just find that fascinating. I love that science exists and that we use it to our benefit in so many ways, and I love that there are still mysteries that kind of go beyond science that we can like assimilate and use to our advantage in our lives, and we don't need to rationally understand every component of them. They just anecdotally, like, they work. There's this huge body of evidence. People have been using plants for food and medicine for since the
Start of
beginning of our
time.
existence,
Yeah.
right? So yeah, it's neat.
The inflammation thing is crazy. That's another reason why I think CBD especially is great because so many people struggle with inflammation and they don't even realize that's the problem. And a lot of that ties back into what they're eating for food. Like
Yeah.
rice, breads, all this
Sugar,
inflammatory sugar especially.
alcohol, so
Sugar,
many of the
it's
things
crazy
that
how much
we
sugar is in
love.
everything.
Yeah.
It's in everything.
Yeah.
I had hot sauce the other day and there was sugar in it. And I
Hmm.
was like, why are we putting sugar in hot sauce? When did that what?
Right.
I mean, and all that goes back to inflammation.
Yeah, it
And
does.
it hurts your quality of life.
I know. Yeah, it's a tough one. Um, Yeah, so back to just empowering people to take charge of their own health. Can you imagine like the reduction in medical costs if people just decided that they wanted to, work on being healthier and, like prioritizing their diet and taking care of
It
themselves
would be
instead of
crazy.
just taking medications for everything? Yeah, it would be a whole different world.
Yeah, if people just put in a slight amount of effort, it would radically increase all of that. We would be so much better off. Heart disease would go down, diabetes would go down. People wouldn't be dependent on these pills anymore for issues that really could be replaced in a lot of areas by plant medicine.
Yeah, and I think that's true of mental health too. I mean, there's so
In what
little that
ways?
we know about the link between, physical health and mental
Oh
health.
yeah.
But I
Oh
think,
yeah.
like diet plays a huge role in stabilizing your mental health.
Exercise.
Exercise is huge, and so yeah, it's also connected, and yeah, hopefully, more people catch on that it's just as gratifying to, take charge of your own health and to feel good in your body and to
Absolutely.
know how to maintain the imbalances because we all have them, right? But
Now, do you know anything about the correlation between THC and CBD and mental health specifically? Because I've heard a lot of research that says, oh, it does help, and then I've heard other research that says it doesn't help.
I
It seems
mean,
like it's still murky, kind of
yeah.
murky.
I mean, I just did a bunch of research because I just put out like a blog post that can be found on my website, humbledapothecary.com. And I was looking at some of the like peer reviewed data about cannabis for, and the effects of mental health. And that goes back to what we were talking about before. And this is what I recommend, like people that have mood disorders or high anxiety, those kinds of things can be exacerbated by THC. So for those people, now that's not true of every case. That's the other thing about plant medicine and cannabis is that everybody really has like a unique response to it. So you can't make like a blanket statement and there's one formula that works for everybody the same way. But in general, CBD is really good for kind of like helping to stabilize mental health. It does not exacerbate psychosis or anxiety or you know, a lot of the like depression. However, THC really can. It can be helpful too. I mean, I know a lot of people that manage their anxiety and their depression with cannabis, and they like a high THC. So that's where it's like everybody's body chemistry is a little different. But I would always send somebody in the direction of like a high CBD product to start with, if you're looking to focus on mental health and go from there, and that's like we offer, this kind of wide range of different ratio products. Like we've got a 20-to-1 and we've got an 8-to-1 and we've got a 4-to-1 and we've got a 1-to-1 and we've got an all THC. And the reason for that is because everybody, just their bodies respond so differently to it that it's nice to have a range. And you might start with like a 20-to-1 product and that is your jam that's really working for you, and over time you may need to adjust that. And that's, I've spoken with doctors that have said that about their patients. Like, for a seizure patient, for instance, cannabis can be super effective for people with seizures. But a lot of times they have to like adjust their dose, they have to adjust the ratio, and it's sort of like a constant process of sort of getting feedback about what's working, what's not, and making changes to try to address that.
Yeah, it's not a one size fits all, like
No,
you
not at
said.
all.
You got to do a
Yeah.
little experimenting with it to see what's going to be right
Yeah, and
for
I
where
I
you
mean,
are.
I think eventually where this is all headed is that we're going to have probably really sophisticated testing about our endocannabinoid systems and which like where we're out of balance, because you can have like a deficiency in your endocannabinoid system, but you can also push, like you can have an excess, like you can use too much cannabis and push your body out of balance that way. So if you just had like a little like blood test or something and you could figure out what was deficient and know which strain, which terpenes, what CBD, THC range is really going to be the most suitable for you, that would make it easy.
Can you build up a tolerance to CBD like you can THC?
Yeah, that's a really good question, isn't it? And I don't have an answer for
Yeah,
you.
I've never I haven't heard anything about that. That just
Yeah.
kind of popped into my head, but I've never heard of anybody anecdotally having that happen or reading about it anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah, I
I feel
don't
like
know
it
the
would make
answer to that.
sense,
Mhm.
but maybe not. Maybe I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah. That would be a good question for a doctor that works with, like
Yeah.
patients that are consuming a lot of cannabis, a lot of CBD or THC.
Yeah, I'm sure it would still have its. I would assume that it would still provide the same benefits. I don't know. I don't
Yeah.
know. That's a question I'm gonna have to do some research on, I guess.
Yeah.
Um, so do you use your products a lot? Is
Yes, I
that like your
do.
go-to product is your
It
product?
is,
Yeah,
yeah. And
okay.
I try to use other people's products. I like to like support local folks.
I feel like it'd
Um,
be hard because you know what's going in yours, so you know it's clean,
yeah, and
it's
it's just
good.
it's there. It's really, yeah, I love my products. I love Space Gem, the little gumdrops, the magical gumdrops that it's a local women-owned business, and they are the most amazing cannabis edibles. Huge fan of
Space
those.
Jams.
Yes, Space Gems. You have to
Huh.
try them. They're incredible.
Okay. Space
Oh,
Jams.
they're
I have
so
not heard of
good. Yeah,
that.
and she's got a 1-to-1 and then like an all THC, and they're these all natural gumdrops that are just like a flavor explosion in your mouth, and they're made using ice hash. So
What is ice hash?
it's hash made from basically you use ice and cold water to cleave off like the crystals on the cannabis from the rest of the plant. And then the cool thing about that is it's entirely solventless, and you get this whole range of different cannabinoids and terpenes in there. And it's really like it's a different kind of experience than a concentrate. Even though it is a concentrate, it's a solventless concentrate. You get just more like a whole plant kind of effect in your body, where it's there's the psychoactivity component, but then there's also this sort of like whole body kind of buzz that you get going on. It's really good for pain and inflammation too.
Huh.
So yeah, I'm a big fan of those. And I have to plug for our solventless tablets because those are really cool too. And it's the same thing. We're actually working with this. He's a professor that he was at Purdue University for years, and he developed this technology called fractalization that is essentially he used it. He got this grant from the UN to get these like food pellets basically that were derived from like you take the remains of fish carcass and dry it and then fractalize it, which would turn it into this fine powder and then kind of turn it into pellets. And he could get that anywhere in the world really easily to like food insecure, very remote third world countries. So he used that technology and is applying it with cannabis, and he basically uses this immense amount of pressure to like implode the flower. So you take like whole flour, no trimming, no processing, and just implode it, and it turns it into this fine powder. And
Oh, that's
then
crazy.
yeah, and then we mix that in with like other tablet ingredients to create like a fast acting whole plant solventless tablet. And I'm really into those these days for the same kind of a reason. The effect in your body is just it's magical. It just feels really nice. So
That's crazy.
yeah, it's neat. I should have brought you some of these things. I'm
Wow.
sorry that I didn't.
Fractalization. I don't think I've ever no problem. I don't think I've ever heard of that. That that's insane. And then so you don't have to use any solvents, you don't have to use any chemicals to extract it. It's all
It's just whole
that's like the
flour.
most natural way to go.
Yeah, and he claims that his whole process, there's no grinding, there's no heat. He claims that his process actually sort of cleaves the plant along the cell walls so that like the contents of the cells are kept largely intact, even though you're breaking the plant up into this fine powder.
So you're not losing anything.
You're not losing anything. You're not like you're preventing like free radical damage in the plant, so it's not oxidizing as fast over time. And he's got these for his whole pitch, like he'll let you smell like, oh, I fractalized this flower a year ago, and you smell it and it's still this like vibrant green, and it smells like you smell all the terpenes, and it's like it just came out of the field yesterday.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty neat.
How is he imploding? Is it like a pressure?
It's pressure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it's super proprietary. Like he won't even let me see his
He's keeping
his
it under
machine.
wraps. Oh,
Super under
wow.
wraps. Yeah.
That's crazy. And you probably don't lose any potency that way.
No.
Wow.
Yeah. It's neat.
That is crazy.
Yeah, it's kind of fun. So yeah, he's getting his product out there, and there's a couple small brands using it that are really small, but yeah, it's not widely available
Mm-hmm.
in California by any means. So we're super
You
excited
guys kind of got the
to
drop on it.
yeah, we're excited to work with these guys and to, have this really neat and unique product because it really is like quite different than anything else that's available right now.
Yeah, and that stays in line with kind of who you guys are and your brand of keeping it clean.
For sure.
I mean, you
Yeah.
can't get much. There's no way to make it cleaner than that. I would
Right.
imagine.
Yeah,
If you're
it's
just
true.
imploding it with pressure, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's insane. Wow, wow.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to get you some of these tablets to try.
Yeah,
Now that I've
wow.
sold you
That's
on
I
them,
know.
like
I'm
I really
sold
should have
now.
brought
Wow.
gifts. I don't know what I was thinking.
Well,
I
I had
rushed out of my office today.
That's yeah. That's. I think the process and the technology that we're seeing in this industry it's pretty cool in my
Yeah.
mind. I think that's something that I enjoy seeing because it was back in the day, back when it was legal or illegal. I would go hunting with my dad, and you'd see old grow operations that like the county pulled down or that were destroyed for whatever reason, and then to look where we are today, where fractalization is a thing, and they're
Hmm.
using it on cannabis. I think that's incredible.
Yeah,
I think that's just such a trip.
it's neat as it really like the industry is attracting a lot of great minds from other industries, and I think that's really cool too because I think traditionally there was more of like kind of a classic cannabis culture that existed, and now as it really gains momentum worldwide, you have like brilliant scientists and like tech geniuses and all these people that are like coming into the space to check it out and contribute. And the other thing I love about cannabis is that like almost everybody that I meet that is like really devoted to the industry, they're doing it because they like have a special connection to the plant. It's meaningful to them. They've had some life experience that has like really kind of piqued their interest and devotion to this specific plant. So it's not just like an industry where people are just in it because of the money. Usually like there's a real like heart connection. And I just think it's so neat because just to see passionate people excited about something and then bringing their talents with them to help build this industry. Yeah,
It's infectious.
it really is. Yeah. Hmm.
What did you do before starting
I
up the business?
am a biologist and a botanist, and
Oh
so
wow, okay.
yeah, so I worked for different like government organizations or private companies doing like all kinds of like rare plant surveys and consulting and mapping vegetation, GIS stuff. So yeah, that's what I did for years. I went to Humboldt State and I got my degree in biology and botany, and yeah, did that for a long time before this.
What made you switch?
I just, honestly, I'd wanted to be a doctor. And so I did like a pre-med route, but then I wound up like, falling in love in Humboldt and, having children. And, we were not in a place to like leave the county and go and, put me through medical school. So I just, kind of stuck to like the biological sciences for a long time, but I didn't love that field.
Mm-hmm.
It felt too what's the word, like there was just there's like such a set of like standard operating procedures is just so it got mundane for me. I don't know. I hope people listening won't be insulted by that because I know there's so many biologists around here, but it just wasn't for me. And so going into cannabis, like having the ability to help like build and inform the regulations and be part of this like seedling industry, that I could contribute to, that just like thrilled me, and it still does, honestly. So I find being a part of cannabis a lot more exciting.
Yeah, like I said, it's easy to see that you're passionate about this for
Oh,
sure.
well, that's
It
good.
doesn't
Yeah,
come off as dry. I think that's important too. I think people need to figure out what is their driving factor.
it's
Like
so true.
what's going to make
Yeah.
them want to get up every day and
Yeah.
feel accomplished.
Yeah, exactly. And it doesn't even have to like make sense, right? You just know in your heart, like when something really feels right. Like when you're excited to get up and go to work in the morning, then, it's still a job and it's still work. But, if you're doing something that is meaningful, it makes a really big difference.
Yeah. Yeah. Back to your quality of life. It all ties back into that. It
Yeah,
helps.
it
Because
does.
if you hate what you do every day, or if you wake up and it's a chore, it's gonna weigh on you.
Yeah.
And your body's gonna reflect that.
It's so true. I really wonder, back to like the first little topic that we were having, I think, before we started to record, of like, coming out the other side of this pandemic where we've all had so much time to reflect about, what works in our lives and what doesn't. Like, I think it's just going to be fascinating to see, you know, how that influences people's like life choices going forward. Like I was just reading an article in the New York Times the other day about all of these millennials that are like, they're done, with the office job, sitting behind the computer, even if it pays a lot. Many of them are like walking away from those jobs to like form their own startup, or like, yeah, just have their own little smoothie truck or whatever. Just do something that is more meaningful, and many of them are moving out of urban centers and just living a life that is more meaningful. It's right. Like we can't quantify, our happiness by how many dollars that we make. We have to really look at like, yeah, what feeds us, and that's just such an important part of it.
I wonder where that change comes from, though. I was talking to somebody on the last podcast, a friend, Michaela Pellerin, um, about this, and we didn't really get anywhere because it's a weird idea. The idea of passing up money for something that's not a sure thing,
Yeah.
but that feeds you in a different way, that feeds you like in a spiritual way, I guess,
Yeah.
where you're passionate about it. And it's important. It's definitely important to have that, but it doesn't seem like it's it doesn't seem like that has been the predominant way of thinking, at least not for a while. It seems like
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of rising up in current generations, but like for my parents and my grandparents, that was never a thing.
Oh,
It was
no.
never, oh, we're going to do what we love. It's no, you're
Right.
going to go to work
Yeah.
because you have to provide for your family. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter if
You
you
don't
hate it.
complain,
Yeah, you
right?
don't
You
have a
just
choice.
suck
You're
it
going
up
to,
and do
yeah,
it.
that's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know where that changed, because now it seems like more people are flipping the switch and going, no, I want to do what makes me happy. I don't care if
Mm-hmm.
I have to live out of a van
Right.
or live out of my fish cart or whatever you want to do,
Right.
but that's what people want now,
I think so. Yeah.
which is good. I think it's good we're making that change. I just don't know why.
Yeah, that is a really interesting question, isn't it? I mean, maybe it has to do with like the way that we've raised the more recent generations, because I think it's less of that whole like suck it up and we're gonna like verbally and physically abuse you until you like fit into this little box, right?
Yeah,
Like you cannot do that with like, I mean, I have two kids that are Gen Zers, and like, oh no, you
they're
do
not.
not.
Yeah,
They will plant their feet so hard and just completely like dissociate. Like they don't respond well to like a heavy-handed way of being, and I think that's probably true for a lot of young people. Maybe to a fault. Maybe some people like, people can make the argument that like American children are so overindulged in every way, but um yeah, I don't know. I think that's part of it is that like people have been encouraged to kind of like cultivate passions, and then it's hard to, feel like you can only do those, on the weekend for a few hours because you're so exhausted all the time. I mean, I think probably a lot of people still like sustain the job that they don't like
oh
because,
yeah,
you have families and you
you
got
have
to feed the kids
expectations.
and, you got to keep the roof over your head. But I say if you can do it, if you can pursue your passion, do something that you love and make money at it, like God, go for it.
Yeah, that's a win-win
I
situation.
think so. Yeah.
Yeah, it's important. It's important. If anything comes out of COVID, that I hope that strengthens in
Yeah.
more
I
people.
mean, I've read, heard like a lot of people say, I realized like how important my family was to me. I was like across the country from them. And then all of a sudden there was this pandemic and I couldn't see them. And like, I'm going to go move back to, Ohio or wherever because my parents are there and my sister is there. And, that's actually really important to me. I think that like the whole concept of like the American dream was really about building like wealth, right? Like building capital wealth and, at the expense of like culture and traditions and family and all that stuff. And so maybe we're kind of moving back in a direction now of like, yeah, that's a really kind of hollow metric. Like, sure, you could have a lot of money, and that's, maybe that comes from a place of like, if you were formerly like part of a culture in a country where you didn't have food security, right? You were cold, you didn't have enough clothes, you couldn't feed your family. Like that would be a real impetus to strive for money. But I mean, once you can kind of like secure those basic tenets, how far do you want to go with just chasing dollars, right? There's so much more to life. And so I do think that for everyone, like this has been such a like completely humbling experience, right? To just endure a pandemic and know like there's, these sort of elements in the world that are just so much bigger and more powerful than we are. Like this virus could just take us out and we have no control, right? So it really makes you think about like what your priorities are. It's been for me like a very raw, humbling experience, I would say.
Yeah, it's a wake-up call.
Big time.
Because
Yeah.
imagine if this was worse, if 50% of the population was dying,
Right.
and you had spent the past 20 years in a job that you hated,
Yeah.
you'd be like, why did I do that?
Yeah.
I did all that, and then I could get taken out today by this virus that just came out of nowhere.
Right.
And my life, all I have to show is, 20 years of hard work, which is great, but I hated it. I hated every day of it. Like that's crazy.
It is crazy.
And of course, all of this is perspective, right? If I was homeless in a third world country living a different type of life, I would not probably be sitting here saying that. I would probably be pushing, well, who knows? Maybe I would, but I would definitely be focused on
Survival.
the monetary aspect, of trying to rise above your circumstances.
That's true. I mean, I think we're pretty privileged in this country and in our community to have a relative comfort level, but certainly not everybody does, even all around us, right? So
it's crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy times.
I know.
Hopefully weed and taking care of yourself starts to become a bigger part of the culture.
I really hope so.
Yeah, I think that would be.
I'm a
I
big
think people
proponent.
could use that.
I think so too.
Do you want to plug your website where people can find you?
Yes, please. So you can check out humbledapothecary.com. We've got a lot of resources there, a lot of information about cannabis and how to use it for all kinds of, different concerns or reasons. And you can check us out on Instagram and Facebook at Humbled Apothecary. And send us an email. Ask us any questions. We love to answer your questions. Come visit us at one of the local dispensaries. We're in a number of them. And actually, you can find which one's out on our website, the dispensary locator there. So humbledapothecary.com.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Gillian. I had a blast talking with you. That was a lot of fun, I think.
It was a real pleasure to do
I
this
hope
with you
people
today.
get some information out of that and expand their worldview, maybe.
Yeah, maybe so.
Awesome. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.